Today I'm going to show you how to build stairs using concrete blocks, natural stone, or pavers. This is such a cool project, but there's no clear advice on how to do it properly until now. First, I'll walk you through how I built this stone staircase right here using retaining wall blocks and pavers. I'll cover everything: how to build it so it lasts, handle drainage, protect your siding from water damage, the costs involved, and the time required. I'll even break down the important design considerations so your stairs comply with residential building codes. Let's do it! The first step is to plan and design your stairs. You'll want to determine the dimensions of your stairs, what your stairs will step down onto, and the blocks you will use to build them. The thickness of the retaining wall blocks you use will determine the rise or height of each stair. I'll talk more about designing your stairs later in the video. And once you're ready to go, start by clearing the work area. Remove any existing features and make room to dig. I had to remove this concrete step. It took about 1,000 hits with a sledgehammer to break it up, but eventually it gave in to my sheer will. Next, you'll dig to the appropriate depth to build a base for your stairs. Dig out an area that is wide enough for the bottom layer of stairs, plus an extra 4 to 6 inches on each side to give yourself room to work. For this project, the stairs were part of a patio install, so the area I'm clearing out is much larger. If you're only building stairs, you only need to prep the area underneath the bottom step. Here's an important tip. You want to grade the soil or slope it at a 1 to 2% grade to allow water to drain away from your house. That means for each foot of distance, the ground will drop by 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. So let's say your staircase is 4 feet deep. That means the side furthest from your house will be 1/2 to 1 inch lower than the side right next to your house. To grade the soil, you can either use some stakes and a line level like I explained in my How to Build a Paver Patio video, which I've linked to in the video description, or for smaller areas, you can simply use a level to figure it out. And here's a trick to make it easier. Clamp a scrap piece of wood to your level so the wood sticks out of the bottom the amount of drop you need for your grade. For a 4-foot level, that would be between 1/2 and 1 inch. Then you can quickly check your grade by placing it on the dirt. If it reads level, your slope is just right. If not, make some adjustments. Once the building area is at the appropriate grade and is nice and flat, pack it down well with a hand tamper or plate compactor. Ensure it is flat within 1/4 of an inch, meaning nothing is sticking up more than 1/4 of an inch and there are no divots more than 1/4 of an inch deep. Use a 6-foot flat edge or a straight 2x4 to check for flatness. You may need to add some dirt back in, and that's fine. Do whatever you need to make sure the ground is nice and flat, compacted well, and at the appropriate grade, because this step will largely determine the quality of your stairs. Next, you'll lay some geotextile fabric that is rated for at least 30 years. Overlap the seams by 6 inches and secure it to the ground with landscaping staples. Then you'll add a 1/2 inch layer of sand on top of the fabric to create a near perfectly flat surface to build upon. To do this, buy some 1/2 inch rebar and lay it about 5 feet apart. Then add the sand, being careful not to get the sand under the seams of the fabric. Screed the sand flat with a 6-foot flat edge or a straight 2x4 using the rebar as guides. Pack it down with a hand tamper, add a bit more sand, and then screed it again. Remove the rebar once the sand is installed. Next, install a product called Paver base panels. These replace a typical 4-inch gravel base, so they save a lot of digging. They cost about $2.30 per square foot, weigh about 1 pound each, and are super easy to cut with a razor. Here's a quick overview of the construction of the stairs that I'm going to be building in this video. Now first you have the ground, which is graded at a 1 to 2% grade, allowing water to drain away from your house. Then that's packed down really well. Then you add a geotextile fabric. You have a 1/2 inch layer of sand to create a nice flat surface. That's the orange part here. Then you have the paver base panels on top of that. And you build your stairs directly on top of those paver base panels. Then you put your pavers, which are the green things right here, on top of that. This would be the paver patio. This is the stairs here. You have a gravel base packed in between there, which I'll talk about later. But this is basically the construction of it, and there are a few benefits of doing it like this. And one of them is that this entire system, the patio and the stairs, are both built on the same exact grade. So you create one nice foundation, the whole system is laid on that. You don't have to dig as deep as you would with a gravel base because you're using these paver-based panels. Another benefit is the patio actually locks the stairs in place. One of the best benefits of this system though is that drainage is built in. Because this is all built on a 1 to 2% grade, even these blocks are slightly tilted this way, and the stairs are, allowing water to just drain right off the top and off of your patio so you don't have to do anything special for drainage. Now let's say you wanted to use a gravel base instead of the paver-based panels. Here's what that would look like. You'd do a 4 to 6 inch gravel base packed down really well here. You want to make sure to bury this first block at least 4 to 6 inches deep below the grade, and that's packed down well to keep it from migrating forward. You want this base to go wider than this bottom block here, so you want to have about 6 inches wider there. Otherwise, everything is pretty much the same. It's less expensive because you don't have to pay for the paver-based panels. It's also simpler and less steps because you just have the gravel base and then the blocks built directly on top of that. However, the downside is that you don't have the patio system built in with it. You're gonna have to create a different base for the patio. Not necessarily that big of a deal, it's just this is a lot more digging if that's the case. So if I was to build only stairs, this is how I would do it. I would not use the paver-based panels, but if I was building stairs and a patio, and my stairs were only 18 inches tall, I would definitely go with the paver-based panel system. Either way you go, a base is essential. Do not build your stairs directly on dirt because it's gonna settle and it's gonna cause all kinds of problems. You always need a solid foundation when building any hardscape. And the same goes for building a business, which is why if you own one, Revenued could help you get to the next level. Yes, they are sponsoring this video, but here's why you want to pay attention anyway. Access to capital is a key part of any business's foundation. Without it, you could miss out on big opportunities. For example, let's say you land a big job and you need $20,000 up front to cover materials, equipment, or payroll. With Revenued's Flex line, you can get fast access to the cash you need, usually within 24 hours. No, it is not a credit card, it's flexible business funding. There are no fees to open, maintain, or draw funds, just quick access to funding when you need it. You're approved based on your business revenue, not your credit, and as your revenue grows, your limit can too, up to $500,000. Hit the link in the description to see if you qualify, and don't let great opportunities slip through the cracks because you're undercapitalized.
Here's what the base will look like when it's finished. So I placed pavers on top to keep the wind from blowing them away because it was windy when I installed them. Now once the panels are in place, snap a chalk line parallel to your foundation to use as a guide before placing your blocks. You can also see me using a carpenter's square to make sure that the corner is exactly 90 degrees. Then you can start placing the blocks for your stairs. Pay attention to ensure the blocks are level side to side and even with each other as you go. Having a rubber mallet on hand is helpful for making small adjustments and setting the blocks in place. Once that first layer of blocks is in place, install an edge restraint where needed to keep them from migrating. Start by first trimming the extra paver-based panels, then fold the landscaping fabric over the edge, put down the edge restraint, and hammer in with 10-inch landscaping spikes. For this project, I only needed the edge restraint on one side, as the patio will secure the other two sides. If you're building a patio as well, build the patio before returning to the stairs at this point so the pavers will lock the stair blocks in place. After building the patio, I removed the first row of stair blocks because there was a hump in the middle. Then I added some sand on top of the paver-based panels to level out the stairs and then reset that first layer in place. Another thing to notice here is that I'm placing blocks along the foundation as well to build a relief wall, which is important.
Here's why. You never want to build your concrete stairs so they're supported by the wood of your house because that's going to cause moisture damage. Instead, you're going to build a relief wall that's 1/2 of an inch to an inch away from the foundation of your house. And then you're going to pack this gravel base right here between the foundation and the bottom concrete block. That way it locks this in place so it doesn't migrate toward the house as you pack this gravel base and build the rest of your wall. And that's going to accomplish two things. It's going to keep the weight from being supported by the wood on your house, which it's not designed to do. And secondly, it's going to keep you from having expensive moisture damage to your home, which is a very costly repair.
You'll also notice that I'm creating another row of blocks about an inch back from the front row. That supports the second step. I'm also filling the gaps between the blocks with a gravel base and packing it down in 2-inch layers. You want to compact this base thoroughly.
And one thing you could do to save even more money is you could eliminate these blocks right here, fill that in with paver base. You'd replace those 2 blocks and instead have that packed gravel base to support these stairs, since these aren't going to be seen anyway, and it will save you a little bit of money.
If you have wood siding, now is the time to cut it. First, stack the blocks and pavers to simulate the finished height of the stairs and mark where to cut the siding. Then carefully cut the siding. I'm using an oscillating multi-tool here. Technically, you can skip this step and just space your stairs away from the siding by a 1/2 inch, but I think it looks better when the stairs are closer to the house. Then add flashing to prevent water damage. The best way to do this is to install a layer of flashing tape first. This forms a waterproof membrane that attaches firmly to the wall. On top of that, add a layer of either aluminum or galvanized steel flashing and secure it with screws. This prevents the flashing tape from getting punctured. You can find links to these materials at handymanstartup.com/paver stairs or in the video description.
Now it's important to install the flashing properly, and here's how to do that. Here I have a zoomed in cross section with the siding, the house, and the pavers, where those meet. These black and blue lines represent the new flashing you're going to be installing. This orange line represents the house wrap that's already protecting your home from moisture damage. So here's what you want to do. You want to tuck this new flashing behind your siding and this house wrap and shoot for a 6-inch overlap here. That way, if water gets behind the siding up above, it flows out and away from your house and doesn't cause any moisture damage.
Now you can start on the second row. Get a high quality concrete adhesive and apply it generously to the bottom layer. Then place each stone carefully so that the joints between the blocks are staggered. Staggering the joints between layers is essential for stability. Before I glued this second row, I actually dry fitted the pieces and cut the blocks to fit where needed. Then I removed the entire layer, cleaned the surfaces to ensure the glue would adhere well, and then glued the blocks in place, as you see me doing here. That way I could glue it all at once instead of having to stop, make cuts, and then wait for the blocks to dry. As you lay the blocks, pay attention to their placement to make sure they remain straight. Until the glue dries, they can move and shift easily. And repeat these steps until your stairs are at the height you want. Dry fit the blocks, make any cuts, clean them well before gluing, and pack some gravel base between them, being sure to maintain a 1/2 inch gap between the house and the blocks. Make sure the base material is compacted well and flat between the blocks to support the pavers. I used a bit of sand to create a nice flat surface, but that's not required. And finally, install the pavers on top of the concrete blocks to finish the stairs. You may notice these little bumps on the edges of the pavers. I'll talk about how to deal with these in a minute, along with how to cut the concrete blocks and pavers. You can also use other materials here. Bluestone is a common option. A stair cap with a finished edge is another good option. Either way, the process is the same. Dry fit all the pieces, make any necessary cuts, then clean the surface well before gluing with a high quality concrete adhesive. And pay attention to the order of the pavers as you remove them so you can quickly place them in the correct spot while gluing. And you'll need to make a few cuts, so here are a few ways to do that. The best way to cut concrete blocks or stone is a cutoff saw. You can rent one of these if needed. Another way to cut concrete blocks or stone is with a chisel and a hammer. You create a notch all the way around, then give it a good whack. This method is great if you need a rough finished edge. If you have a lot of cuts and need a rough finish, you can use a splitter to speed things up. To cut the pavers, a wet tile saw is amazing. This won't work for thicker blocks though. And an angle grinder is my least favorite option, but it can work in a pinch.
The problem with using concrete pavers as a stair cap is that they have these spacers on them and they have this very rough edge right here. Here's how to address this.
First, I cut the spacers off using a wet tile saw. Unfortunately, a saw like this is required to get a smooth edge. Then, I used a sanding stone to create a nice smooth edge on the top and bottom of each paver that lined the edges of my stairs.
Once the pavers are cut and glued in place, you can add jointing sand according to the directions on the bag, as I explained in my previous video. Now, I'm still going to cover costs, time needed, and some important building codes to be aware of, so I recommend watching this entire video. And finally, install the trim around your patio door, caulk any gaps, and prime and paint the siding where necessary. Then sit back and enjoy your handiwork. Paver stairs look great and require virtually no maintenance when installed properly. It's a fun project and it adds a nice touch to any backyard. I installed these stairs 2 years ago and the total cost for just the stairs was roughly $1,600, which isn't bad when you consider that hiring a contractor would have cost about $5,500. So I saved roughly $3,900 on these stairs alone. So how long will it take to build concrete block stairs like this? Now, if you worked efficiently, you could tackle this project in about 20 hours. You'd need about 5 hours to plan your design and shop for materials, and then about 15 hours of labor. However, even if you worked a bit slower and it took you 30 hours, you'd still save about $130 per hour by doing this yourself. That's the equivalent of earning $173 per hour, since you don't pay taxes on money that you save. Not bad. Now, before you run out and start building your stairs, here's some important design considerations to ensure your stairs are compliant with residential building codes. First off, the method I showed here will only work if your total height of your stairs is 18 inches or less. As your stairs get taller, your design needs to change significantly. Secondly, let's talk about the landing. A landing is recommended for any patio stair installation because it makes it easier to go in and out of the door. And in some cases, it's required. So if your door swings outward over the stairs, it must have a landing. If the door you're servicing is the primary entrance to your home, which is usually the front door, it must have a landing. And if your stairs have 3 or more risers, you must have a landing. If your stairs don't meet any of these criteria, you don't have to worry about a landing. But if a landing is required, it must be at least 36 inches wide or as wide as the door it serves, 36 inches deep, and step down no more than 1.5 inches from the door threshold. The door threshold is the part of the door that you step on when you're walking through the door. And lastly, the stairs. The tread of the stairs should be at least 10 inches deep and 36 inches wide. The rise of each stair should be no more than 7 3/4 of an inch tall, and the rise should be consistent between stairs within 3/8 of an inch, meaning you can't have a 5-inch tall stair followed by a 7-inch tall stair. It confuses people and they're more likely to take a digger. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and drop a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Then watch my video on how to build a paver patio right here, where I go into more detail on some of the concepts shared in this video. It's been a pleasure sharing my experience. I'm Dan Perry, and I'll see you next time.